Friday, the 14th day of January, 2011. Bob Chapman joining us on different developments in the economy and geopolitically, as he always does. Coming up today in the third hour, we have Dr. Joe Wallach joining us, who was a doctor of veterinary medicine, but also of naturopathic medicine, ND, not MD. And he is going to be joining us coming up to get into what's causing so many of the illnesses and diseases in this country is lack of minerals and vitamins. And the system knows this, but they want to treat the results of the lack of minerals and vitamins and other trace elements and nutrients instead of giving you the things that are preventative. And so I want to be talking with him coming up later in the next hour. Also, you noticed last week the federal government had to admit that sodium fluoride is causing dental fluorosis and a lot of other degenerative type diseases and problems. We're seeing an almost near reversal. And they're doing that because they know that there is massive resistance building worldwide, not to just things like NAFTA and GATT or the World Trade Organization or the Private Federal Reserve or the TSA, but on fluoride. Lawsuits are being filed at city and county level as people discover that it's a listed poison and that other poisons are being added under the name fluoride. The vast majority, over 90% of toxicologists, scientists, neurologists are going public, writing books, signing petitions. The major unions of the Food and Drug Administration and the EPA have gone to Congress in the last 11 years multiple times. I mean, it's building towards a crescendo. And so the establishment is saying, okay, we'll cut it from 1.2 parts per million, and some places it's as high as 4 parts per million. We'll cut it down to maybe 3 parts or 0.3 parts per million or 0.5 parts per million, because they are already moved on to using sodium fluoride as a pesticide on crops, and it goes through the cell wall and bioaccumulates. They've already got the chemical weapon system in literally thousands of processed foods at levels hundreds of times above 1 part per million. I mean, I've seen cases of it in powdered eggs of 600 parts per million. I mean, it's just, I always wondered why growing up, if I was on a camp out or something and ate powdered eggs, I'd throw up. I mean, I'm somebody who loves eggs. My body was like poison. Danger, Will Robinson. And they're also, of course, in the toothpaste, it's hundreds of times above 1 part per million. So they're hitting you and hitting you hard there. So they're going, okay, you want to win a fight? Okay, we'll back off. We'll cut it by half or more. You win. Because it's very important they be able to continue adding the lead, the mercury, the uranium, the radium, and other radioactive isotopes into your water to sterilize you. And, of course, that's in the government documents and Rockefeller documents we've covered and gone over here. And we've had Dr. Paul Connett on, toxicologist, biologist, breaking all that down, PhD. And that video is at prisonplanet.tv. So these are real public service announcements that we can do and actually help people. Now, for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to get into a smattering of important news. And then coming up at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to get into this story that I'm about to introduce in more detail. Headline, Witch Hunt, FBI visiting conservative bloggers after Tucson shootings. This is so outrageous. I don't have words to describe how serious this is. And they are visiting people in multiple states, Arkansas, you name it, who said nothing threatening and asked polite questions at public events about budgets and about campaign donations. And remember, I played the clip yesterday of elected Democrats in Missouri and other states saying, if you say things that we say aren't true about Obama, that he's not a Christian or that he's a Muslim, we will arrest you. So don't think they won't do it. Just like you didn't believe they'd confiscate guns in Katrina. from even the high and dry, wealthy areas where they had generators and food. Their first target wasn't bring food and water to the people at the Astrodome that they blocked from leaving the city. They wouldn't let them go out over the highways. They shot them if they tried to leave. The cops that followed orders by the feds, by the way, were hung out to dry and put in prison for that. So that's a good lesson for you. No, they sent the military out under FBI command with police from all over the country in a giant orgy of tyranny, violating the Bill of Rights, and they took the guns. All the guns will be taken. No one will be allowed to be armed. And then we saw the videos of police dragging out the burglar bars on banks and on pawn shops, stealing the jewelry, police robbing en masse, actually kicking looters out of Walmart that still had electrical power, still had everything. The surveillance cameras were rolling. And then the cops just start loading Sony PlayStations up. It was a celebration of evil. That's what you have to look forward to. When there's a blizzard in New York, the government people party and sit on their butts as little babies die on freezing mall floors for 9 hours. When there's a Katrina, they're coming for your guns, and they keep them and sell them for themselves. And they go in Walmart, and they rob the banks. Every time there's a crisis in history, armies and police loot and steal. Oh, sure, 60, 70, 80% of the cops just go, I'm not going to be part of this, and go home. But the lawless 30% rob and rape and kill. And we now know robbing, raping, killing. The real looters were the police and military in Katrina. On record, I had witnesses on who were there when the cops were shooting people on the bridge, and listeners couldn't believe it, and later they were convicted of it. I had listeners on who were part of the relief effort that said the military demanded to see women's breasts and privates for water, and if they wanted to be taken out, they had to go behind the building and have sex with them. Now, our military's got a lot of good people, but it's also got a lot of gangbangers and foreigners and you name it, filling it up. And let me tell you, they're having a good time. And if you think the government can and will protect you, you're insane. It's a rotten fish, and they rot from the head up, run by foreign offshore criminal banks, rotting right down towards the tail. And look, I'm not just picking on police. Every major societal study shows the general public within 10 days will rob and kill for food. Within 15 days, almost everyone, it's close to 100%, will eat man flesh. They will roast a baby on a spit. They will take your wife and gut her and eat her. They will take you and they will gut you. The general public out there, these wanting, pathetic, fake moralizing liberals and mainline conservatives and people that are these domesticated, self-propelled stomachs will eat you within 15 days if they're not given food by the government as we go into this depression. Now, the globalists plan to never let it get to that. They're going to let things fall apart and then use the giant screaming mob as their battering ram to destroy the middle class and complete the United States journey into complete despotism, just like Argentina, just like Nigeria, just like Romania, just like countless other countries. It's all being lovingly prepared, and we have the IMF World Bank documents where they planned it in the third world, and they call it the IMF riot. They engineer it with precision. And then you will beg for the SWAT teams and the military, because even though they might rape your wife, at least they'll machine gun the horde running towards you to literally rob you and beat you to death. Remember the media saying, how dare the Korean shopkeepers hold off the mobs that wanted to burn down their businesses? They were the bad guys in Los Angeles. You will be the bad guy if you try to defend your business or your home. You will be the one that's evil if you shoot looters. You will be the one that's evil if things break down with no food and water for 15 days and people start trying to roast you. Oh, and under Mao's great reorganization, even mainline Chinese books, government approved, I've even got the Nightline on this from like 15 years ago on tape, somewhere around here, that they had giant pots stewing people up in them, and their favorite was children, just giant pots roasting and boiling the dead, and that's what the great communist death machine fed off of. It was fueled by human flesh. Now, that's the extreme we could go to, and there's a lot of ugly places to go on the way to that, but something different has happened here in this republic. We own guns. We own firearms. This republic is armed. And so they're not going to be able to have their Nazi Germany blood feast. They're not going to be able to have their Soviet blood feast. They're not going to be able to have their bloodthirsty orgy like Pol Pot did, funded by the U.S. government on record, declassified. Zbigniew Brzezinski's now written 2 books bragging on that. In the same books, he brags about founding Al-Qaeda as well. Who can then menace us. Oh, let the government take all your rights and surveil you. It's to protect you from Al-Qaeda. It's a little sock puppet they're running and funding. And it is a vicious little sock puppet as well. It does bite. Oh, let us take your rights. This enemy's coming. Oh, never mind, our hand is manipulating it. Don't look at the big globalist government over here. Look at the scary Al-Qaeda puppet. In fact, I've got to order online an Al-Qaeda puppet so I can basically have Mr. Rogers TV here. Okay, see, I just ranted for a whole segment because I'm so freaked out fundamentally. We were mourning last night in this office. We were mourning. I worked up here till about 8:30. We were mourning the information that we've now seen. We were staggered. We were freaked out. That's a normal response at what unfolded. And I haven't even gotten to it yet. I should be speechless by this. But this is just the latest, what you're about to hear. They're going to peaceful, conservative bloggers' homes and businesses and basically threatening them. And asking them if they're violent. Well, why am I freaked out? I've had the FBI here asking me that before. And the Secret Service. And it gets worse. Just wait till I break this down. Stay with us. A political police force has been set up in America. From before the time that Obama was elected, it was his destiny to carry the ball of the New World Order down the field until a new puppet came in. So understand, this isn't just coming from Obama. This is the offshore banking cartel's agenda. They've engaged in all this looting and all this, criminal takeovers of society. They've got to have a rear guard action now to protect themselves as they run off with all the loot from the crimes they've committed. I mean, they've been steering a giant empire for their own gain. They've got to continue that fraud. And so now all over the country, Arkansas and other states, the FBI is visiting mainline peaceful bloggers who have asked questions about campaign contributions of congressmen and people, and they're asking them, are you violent? So not only has it been proven to be a hoax that this shooter in Tucson, Arizona was a conservative, that's been proven to be a total hoax now, on record. If anything, he was a leftist. I mean, that was all his major affiliations. And that doesn't stop the FBI, and it doesn't stop local media around the country from reporting on how it's a good thing to have the FBI visit bloggers. After all, they're the mainstream media, and they don't like that those bloggers have bigger audiences in many cases than they do, and why they're teamed up with the government to check into this because, free speech might be terrorism. So you're seeing the conversion now from, oh, this whole police state's for the foreign Muslims to, oh, it's for the returning veterans and gun owners, and, oh, bloggers, and there's white Al-Qaeda everywhere. And that's the big article. We have the videos up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Get it out to everybody out there. I think this is Drudge Report material. Witch hunt. FBI visiting conservative bloggers after Tucson shootings. And here they are with a straight face in Arkansas talking about it. I'm not going to play the whole newscast. If you want to see it, it's up on Infowars.com.
Still, this local man says he's no Jared Loughner.
Do you just ignore people that ask you questions?
Clay Bowler says you're watching the worst of it.
Billy, on November 23rd, you made a $1,000 donation to Roy Blunt. Were you fed up with federal spending before or after you made that donation?
He claims these were the most confrontational encounters he ever had with then-candidate, now Congressman Billy Long.
Okay, that's enough.
Billy Long. Never.
But Bowler
Notice how they put it off on him like he's got to explain himself. He goes out to a campaign event, follows the guy along with the rest of the press, and points out that the guy isn't really a conservative and is giving money to candidates that are for big government. I mean, that's real journalism, and he gets an FBI visit. This is an attempt at intimidation. Now, on top of all of this, yesterday, Jason Douglas made some unbelievable discoveries, and he wrote 2 stories on this subject for Infowars.com. One is Stop, Think, Connect, DHS announces new fear agenda. The other story deals with citizens being trained that people buying guns and engaged in political speech may be terrorists. And we have the Department of Homeland Security FEMA Ready Kids report here. And it says children are our future. And then they have a subsidiary, the Red Dirt Ready report of OK.gov. And it says, this is how you tell if you're dealing with a terrorist. Note-taking using binoculars. Individuals avoiding eye contact. I was in a Best Buy a few days ago to buy some DVDs because I like to watch movies when I jog on the treadmill. And I was dressed nice, and I went in, and they had a plainclothes security guard kind of follow me around, and I'd look down to see what movies were there, and he'd come and stand by me. And I started getting a little irritated, and I was looking at him, and then he wouldn't make eye contact. But then I just said, I'm not going to get mad. I'm going to get out of here. But then I saw him kind of follow me, and then they kind of said something, and I went up with like 5 videos, and I bought them, and the woman said, let me see your driver's license. Let me see your ID, I mean your credit card, because I was paying with a credit card. And I just said, look, this is like an airport now. I'm never going to come in Best Buy again. And then the guy wanted to search me in my little bag when I left with my 5 movies. And they were doing it to everybody else. It's just like, you're a slave, you're scum, you're bad, and everybody's a secret police agent. But continuing here, it says buying guns or ammunition is now a sign of terrorism. And it says political speech is controversial issues being debated. Go ahead and call Homeland Security on your neighbors for that. This is what kids are being trained to do. Okay, so now we learn that in different areas of the country, Homeland Security is visiting conservative bloggers' homes and businesses and asking them if they're planning to attack members of Congress and others if they simply ask questions politely. And the message is, you sit down, you shut up. You don't do that, or we're basically going to come out and say that you're a terrorist. Now, on top of this, you know, at the 9,000 locations, malls, shopping centers, grocery stores, 845 plus Walmarts, that they're putting in some cases, dozens and dozens of telescreens at every checkout counter. They have a telescreen telling you to basically spy on other people that are shopping, watch your neighbors. And, of course, we knew that there would be new announcements. And they have like an AP news scroll on the bottom to make it newsy. They now have a new report saying the internet is under threat. Watch the websites you visit. Don't worry. This is Cybersecurity Month. Homeland Security is going to be taking over the internet for your safety. And then you read the architecture of the Cybersecurity Act. It basically admits that they're going to hack up the web as we know it, have internet ID trackers. The president's announced that they are going to start taxing it, and that they're going to make you serve under national compulsory service. That's the domestic security force, just as big and just as strong as our military. That's a TSA-run Homeland Security amalgamation. You notice the Congress is saying they want TSA as their security now on the streets. Their own little private federal goon force on top of Secret Service. Well, it's the same thing here. Now this new cybersecurity, making youth go into government training programs in high school to fight propaganda on the web that is going out and countering you and I that are speaking out against them, while the FBI visits us and harasses us. I mean, this is the authoritarian police state takeover of the web. And here it is out of Oklahoma in partnership with Homeland Security. This is OK.gov/Red Dirt Ready, which, of course, is the name of the FEMA Homeland Security program, ready.gov. And it says, do you have binoculars? Are you taking photographs or videos? Individuals avoiding eye contact. It continues here. It says that if you are at a hotel and that if you order room service but don't want them inside your room, I mean, just a few weeks ago, I was with my wife and children in a hotel, and they were all in their pajamas, and we ordered some food at about 9 at night. We were going to watch TV, something we rarely do, a treat for the kids. And we'd already ordered room service at about 7. We were going to let them have some desserts because we were on vacation. That's right. So some ice cream and milk and stuff was coming up. And I was wearing a shirt and shorts, but my wife was in her nightgown, and she said, don't let him in. And so I went over and went outside and signed it. It says, go ahead and call Homeland Security if you do that. So, again, I'm a terrorist as well. All of this is a net so wide that, see, everyone is guilty. Everyone is suspect. The terrorists are hiding under the table. They're hiding in the pantry. They're hiding in the basement, in the attic, in the bushes. Only Homeland Security will keep you safe. And it's all about this total climate of fear. This total climate of fear that, there's this new video where Homeland Security is announcing in now 9,000 locations these are being put in. And they're now announcing they're going to put them on highways and in public squares, just big announcements. And they said, don't worry, we want the public involved in the new program. And so we're going to have cash prizes for people and that produce PSAs about internet danger and how bad the internet is. And don't trust anyone. Don't trust your neighbors. Don't trust the internet. Only trust the government run by bankers that are stealing your pension funds right now. They're really gearing up for the full announcement. We're in a depression. They're just stalling, saying the economy's great. Don't worry. Record job losses, record housing price slumps, dollar devaluation. Shut up. Oh, look, the terrorist that shot the congresswoman. He didn't like the Federal Reserve. Don't talk bad about the Federal Reserve. You're a terrorist. FBI is going to visit you. And they're just creating this hysteria. So it says, go ahead and call Homeland Security. This is being given to school children in Oklahoma. If you hear controversial issues being debated, and they're telling us now what controversial issues are. Are you talking about the monetary system? Little people aren't supposed to be talking about those high and mighty things. You just let the bankers run things. They'll take care of it like they've done all over the world. They're nice men in suits, like Mr. Madoff and Ken Lay. Mr. Bernanke's going to take... Now, never mind that Congress asked where the trillions went and they won't say. That nothing to see here. Move along. You don't want an FBI visit, do you? You don't want to be on a no-fly or no work or no gun buy list, no judge or jury. You better sit down and shut up, and everything will be okay, because together we thrive. Meaning sit down and shut up and do what the television and Barack Obama tells you. The message is, you criticize government and corruption, you're going to get an FBI visit. You sit down and shut up, you're going to thrive. And all these Obama supporters for 2 years thought they were going to get free houses, free cars. Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I don't have to have a job anymore. I'm going to get free health care. Did you get that? Turns out it allows the government to cut the quality of care for everybody and to set up death panels and not give old people treatment and to force 30-plus million people to buy overpriced insurance because the insurance companies wrote it. Do you suckers that are born every minute like what happened? I'm talking to those mainline idiot liberals that think we're going to be safer like you are in Chicago and New York if we disarm the public. Then you can have a total crime-ridden system run by crooks on top in government with their little buddies, the crooks on bottom, feeding on everybody. You like that? So this is all so over the top now, and we've got a big video that I shot last night that Rob Dew stayed up all night to get up. It's on the InfoWarrior channel. It's the top video at the Alex Jones video channel. We're going to get posted right now at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And it's got the headline up there on Infowars.com, similar to the article, Witch Hunt, FBI visiting conservative bloggers after Tucson shootings. We have a video of the same title that's 18 minutes long that is extremely powerful that everybody needs to see. Remember, a lot of the public doesn't read now. So those of you that are reading, our higher IQ audience on average, you need to send the video on to those that are basically at a 5th grade level of the general public. And maybe we can get them out of their trance. In fact, we are having some success resuscitating the fires of liberty in many people's minds. And then again, Jason Douglas's 2 other articles that went up last night. Oklahoma Homeland Security says controversial debate, suspicious behavior. And they're telling us what's controversial. You don't talk about government corruption. You don't talk about the Federal Reserve. You don't talk about monetary issues. You don't talk about crooks in government. You sit down and you shut up. And if we sit down and shut up, see, they know the general public's being conditioned just to accept tyranny. But this is also a message to those of the people that are awake and about to get involved. It's like, you don't want men in black uniforms to come. See, that's why so many people that watch my show, listen to my radio show, watch it streaming at prisonplanet.tv, they can't believe I'm real, even though all the fruits of what we've done. They can't believe someone's bold, someone has courage, someone is announcing a contest against the government contest where they're saying make contest about not trusting other citizens, not trusting the internet. I'm going to have a contest exposing the TSA rollout of the telescreens brainwashing people. I mean, I'm there engaging them. I'm on the field as an example, confronting these people at point-blank range in the info war. Okay, I've been physically attacked. I'm demonized. George Soros publications say, I will be responsible for the next Oklahoma City. We have been sent the secret Army documents where the Army is surveilling yours truly. I am surveilled by the U.S. Army, okay, because we're hardcore, ladies and gentlemen. We are real defenders of the Republic. We are picking up the mantle of those that fought in 1776 against tyranny. We are the real Americans. We are the red-blooded Americans. We are the red, white, and blue, regardless of what color or religion. If you love liberty, you're a red-blooded American. And so we're the enemies of these foreign banking usurpers that are butchering our country. I mean, what more does it take? 1984 telescreens saying don't trust your neighbors, 1984 messages, and they're going to get more and more crazy. They're going to be airing in the 9,000 locations citizen-made propaganda and corporate-made propaganda about how dangerous the internet is. This is their propaganda push to force their way in to take over the web. They've announced it. PC World yesterday. We told you a year ago, but it's PC World yesterday. Internet ID program to be implemented. It's been announced. All the new Microsoft operating systems already have it built into them. You'll have to thumbprint to get online. They're moving at warp speed. It's real. Now, here's an even bigger development. If we give in to the intimidation, they win. It means total enslavement if we don't buck up and say, you know what, I'm not intimidated by you. Just like when a bully starts a fight with you, this is a political bully. We're not calling for violence. We're calling to stand up to these violent people in this violent state with its violent propaganda and its IRS that comes with guns if you don't pay all the money they claim you're owed and the property taxes. They will come with a gun. They will kill you if you resist when they try to take your house. They are the violent ones. They're trying to make you think you're the violent ones. You're the bad ones. They're teaching you that political discussion is evil. They're bringing in classical tyranny, and they're counting on us not standing up and saying no to them right now. Now, I want to get into this. They are making the case, and I'm going to make the case 110%. I will absolutely prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that Rachel Maddow, America's favorite Boy Scout, I am going to absolutely make the 110% case that they are the un-American enemies of the Republic. They are the children of the authoritarian past. And we are the children of the Renaissance, of liberty, of the Enlightenment, of the awakening, of the flower of freedom, 1776. We are the children of liberty. They are the children of tyranny. Okay, it's that simple. And I will prove it now, incontrovertible. Let's go ahead and play a clip of Rachel Maddow demonizing Congressman Brown, who's been on, Congressman Paul, and myself, implying that we are calling for violence and that we are going to carry out violence. And then she says that, you know, it's un-American. I have the Declaration of Independence right here. This is America. More than the Bill of Rights, more than the Constitution. This is it. This was when some of the most powerful men that had a lot to lose put their names, their lives, their treasure. A lot of them got killed. A lot of their families and children got killed when they put their name on this, when they signed their John Hancock. This is America. If you don't stand for this, if you don't kiss the ring of this, you're not an American. This is it. Nothing is more Americana. It ain't apple pie and baseball, folks. It isn't Chevy cars, okay? That's the fruit of liberty. This is the root. This is the root. The liberty and the wealth is the fruit. This is the root. This is putting it on the table. This is saying, you're tyrants and I'm calling you out. When they were sending trained murderers to kill these men, burning down their farms. This is the root of liberty. And what does it say here? But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such a government and to provide new guards for their future security. It is not our right. It is our duty to throw off this tyrannical government. But we are the government. We created this government. And so we have a right to get in the face of these crooks and to get angry and to get focused and to rile people up. That's how you get things done when the face of tyranny, to take our republic back through the states, through the Congress. But they're not going to let that happen. They're going to blow up new Oklahoma cities and blame it on us. They've got the talking points out saying they're going to do it. Even Glenn Beck has to admit that. It isn't going to work. We've got to have courage in the face of these criminals or there is no future. Now, let's go ahead now. Here she is demonizing Ron Paul, Congressman Brown, myself, Rachel Maddow. I think she's one of the most well-spoken men on MSNBC. It's the Declaration of Independence, Mr. Maddow. Okay? I'm sorry that a lot of men in this country still wear pants and aren't going to be the slaves of Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan. I'm sorry that some of us have read 1984 and know telescreens going in at locations everywhere telling us to spy on our neighbors isn't freedom. You like to pose as a liberal? The real liberals were the founding fathers, classical liberals. Liberal means freedom, the opposite of what you deliver. And you don't like it. Now she goes after yours truly. Here it is.
That time. Again, the argument here is that the Second Amendment exists so Americans can overthrow the government. That is a view. It is a radical view of gun policy.
No, it's not. Americans are asked, why are you buying guns? They're buying it for civil unrest and to fight back against government tyranny.
It's conservative talk radio host Alex Jones. Yeah. We essentially have two choices.
That's enough from Mr. Maddow.
What kind of country we are on this.
I'm done with these people, okay? I'm done. I'm done with their violence, their wars killing millions of people. And I want to tell conservatives something. If you want to really save America and you're really a conservative, say no to the wars, say no to the torture, say no to the empire. That is not a conservative position. And you notice the last 2 years in a row, Ron Paul gets standing ovations at CPAC, the most powerful Republican meeting, when he says that. Look, the system is panicking. We're taking over the liberal wing, the right-wing wing. We're taking America back, and you guys are going to try to stage events to make us look bad? Go ahead and try, terrorist. We got a photo up on screen for PrisonBlended.tv viewers of Mr. Maddow. That's back when Mr. Maddow was the spokesman nationwide for big and tall men's shops. I'm sorry. In the face of this tyranny, I just can't handle it. Oh, man. Hey, be who you are, Mr. Maddow. I just can't handle it. These people have all got an axe to grind. They want to make us think and act the way they do. Look, I want you to have liberty, Mr. Maddow. Do what you want. Leave me and mine alone. We don't want to be brainwashed by you. We don't want to be under your control grid. But you're saying that this is somehow un-American. That we're talking about the Declaration of Independence and our right and our duty. I mean, go read the Declaration of Independence. I challenge every police officer listening. Read the Declaration of Independence and then ask, are you following this? No, this is the opposite. You are taught the Declaration of Independence is bad. I have FEMA videos of police being taught that. It's in my film, Road to Tyranny. Of course, it was shot by good people in the meeting. And the truth is, I've seen national polls of 98% of cops being pro-Second Amendment. But the problem is, under peer pressure, they went ahead and confiscated the guns. They had cops from all over the country in New Orleans. We're at a crossroads here, and they've got the FBI going out to conservative bloggers' houses, going along with the hoax that conservatives influence this guy on hallucinogens completely out of his mind. It's ridiculous. Only in a collectivist, authoritarian state, under the Nazis and the communists, if somebody did something wrong on your block, you got in trouble for it. That's not the American way. That's not freedom. Just 30, 40 years ago, the U.S. was the model of the world. It wasn't perfect, but it wrote the book on freedom. Now it's selling tyranny worldwide as liberty. This is not land of the free, home of the brave. We've got to make it that again. We got our guest coming up at 8 after, but I got a bunch of other news I want to get to here. I just want to really ask listeners today to get this. You know what? We've actually begun to fail getting the #1 search term. We'd always gotten it in the past. Lately, I guess because there's such big news days, we've only been getting second place, third place. I'd like to make this #1 today. I'd like to make witch hunt FBI. Witch hunt FBI. It's got to be a little, bit of a complex term, or other news will come up. And it'll take people to prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com and all of your blogs and sites that post it as well. Witch hunt FBI. Again, witch hunt. FBI visiting conservative bloggers after Tucson shootings. I mean, this is commissars. This is political police. This is hardcore. Let's search that term. Let's make it #1. I'm going to enter it into Google and then hit enter over and over again. Witch hunt FBI. And they got local newscasts in the story we put together, posted there, like it's normal. Why, he asked about campaign contributions, politely. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. This is horrible. This is unacceptable. What does the Oklahoma report bordering Arkansas, what does it say? It says, are they talking about controversial issues at a political meeting? Go ahead and call Homeland Security on them. Watch their speech. This is what the threat fusion centers are. This is the secret police takeover. We're going to come back and get into a bunch of other news, and we're going to get into health news, places we can at least take action and protect ourselves. Before I go any further, this radio broadcast is possible because of your support with the sponsors, visiting the online video bookstore that also has T-shirts, ball caps, anti-New World Order stuff. The government would call it terrorist because it's American. Dyed in the wool, heart of America, doesn't get any more Americana. They hate it because they're not Americans. They're the enemy, foreign globalist. It's real simple. We've been conquered by financial crooks, put in a police state to make sure they can get away with it. Check out the online video T-shirt bookstore area at Infowars.com, or call toll-free to ask about combos and specials, 888-253-3139. Got a lot of new big exclusive videos also at prisonplanet.tv. You can get 5 months free right now at prisonplanet.tv. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We got a heavy news day, and I'm going to be blitzing through all of it coming up in the next hour. Houston stops couple outreach to homeless, must have feeding permit, land of the free, home of the brave. All over the country, they're telling Christian groups, Muslims, Jewish groups, can't have any neighbors over for a Sunday supper or for Ramadan. I mean, it's just total tyranny. But if you want to run around naked in the streets or recruit, 5-year-olds to your sexual persuasion, that's fine. You can go ahead and do it. Got all of that going on. Mexican gunman fires across border towards U.S. highway workers. Well, it's just like Arizona. Americans aren't supposed to go, whether they're Hispanic, white, black, doesn't matter. You're not supposed to go south of Tucson. And they got government signs up saying, don't go into these areas. And it's like, look, you're not supposed to be here. Don't fix that road. And, of course, it's the Mexican military. And if you're an American riding around on the lake, you're going to get your head blown off. And the controlled media will say it doesn't exist and make fun of you. When there's a tragedy that they don't like, oh, he didn't get shot in the head. The woman didn't see that. Then they send Mexican police to find the body, and they cut their heads off. Then they have articles about nobody's getting their heads cut off. We've got that going on. Of course, the big news is not news here. We told you 3 months ago with Lindsey Williams. It was back in October. October, November, December, 3 months ago. It was the middle of October. You can pull up those interviews at prisonplanet.tv, or they're all over the web. They're in the audio archives on Infowars.com, just down the right-hand side of the page. Back in October, Lindsey Williams talked to his former oil company executive, former head of Atlantic Richfield, who's now died. We've now given you the name of Mr. X. The other guy was the CEO of an even bigger oil company. Still got that source. And they both told him, they said it's going to go to 150 to 200 by the end of 2011. And back then, it was $60 a barrel, and everybody laughed at Lindsey Williams. Didn't matter that he said when oil was $60 a barrel, back in 2008 that within a year it'd be 150, and it was. Still, he gets laughed at. Well, now it's upwards of $100 a barrel from $60 a barrel, and that'll translate when it goes to 150 to we're talking about $5 at the pump on average. Right now, it's going to go above $3 nationwide, and if it goes up to I mean, if it goes up to 200, it might be $6, $7 a gallon. But if it goes to 150, you're talking $5 a gallon. And again, those are rough guesstimates, but we saw what happened a few years ago. And so they know how to put the pressure on us, then relieve it. Put the pressure on us, relieve it. And of course, nowhere in the media are they discussing why this is really happening. The main driver is the fact that we have dollar devaluation and oil is purchased worldwide still in dollars. Though in the last month, the Chinese and the Russians, both big, well, Russia's a big oil exporter, China's a big oil importer. They both announced they're going to deal in oil and natural gas and other petroleum products in the Chinese currency. And now it's beginning to trade on the international market. So the slide, the exodus, the race away from the good old dollar is accelerating. And so you're going to see gold, silver, oil, food. What was in Reuters yesterday? Food prices double. Food prices explode. Who told you food prices 3 years ago was going to go up? We did. Who told you back when silver was $5 an ounce it was going to go up to above 20? Now it's up at 30. We did. Who told you that when gold was $265 an ounce that it was going to go up well above 1,000? We did. Who told you that they would put in telescreens in public telling you to watch your neighbors? I put that in several of my films going back, 8, 9 years ago. It's in Police State 3, and it's also in Masters of Terror. Who told you? We did. I'm not bragging. I mean, I know the Globalist Handbook. I mean, I know what they've done everywhere else. I know what they're setting up. I mean, they've got a new iPhone mind control, mind reading app. Told you about that a year ago. And it's all coming out now. It ain't pretty. Stay with us. It is an admitted fact that world oil prices are rigged, are set by the big oil companies and the sheiks of the Middle East. And it is a fact that we have an inside track to two, one a CEO, one the director of two major oil companies. One of them just died via Lindsey Williams. We know their names. We just can't reveal those on air. Well, we've now revealed the guy that died. And they told you 3 months ago it would be going up from $60 a barrel to $150 to $200 by the end of 2011. And now here's the headline: $100 a barrel oil, deal with it. That's the headline out of the Associated Press. It's also up on the Drudge Report. Continuing, UK warning, oil prices may kill economy and the coalition. MSNBC is also reporting on it. OPEC ministers say world can handle $100 a barrel oil. Other exporters indicate the cartel may not increase crude oil production. Well, good thing that we're seeing record exploration here on the ground in the United States. I know they're drilling all over Texas and hitting natural gas and oil. And they're trying to slap all sorts of federal regulations on them to stop it from getting out of the ground. Our economy is completely dependent on oil and gas. And our society is designed along those lines. And we have absolutely got to start moving towards energy independence. But when you look at the internal intelligence we got years ago that's now mainstream news, we've only got 2 pipelines out of Alaska. They could have 50 out of Alaska. They claim, oh, you can't get rid of them and it hurts the caribou. The caribou sleep under it and use it for shelter. It's like a ship being sunk in the Caribbean. It turns into a natural reef. I mean, this is what is basically needed. It doesn't hurt the environment at all. We could have more oil out of Alaska than we get from Saudi Arabia, but we can't have it because the government and the big cartels on record only allow a small amount of the oil out of Alaska to go to the U.S. Roughly 20% goes to the West Coast. The rest goes to China and to Japan. So it is just incredible to see that unfolding. Continuing here with the news, you notice that There are reports that as much as half of Australia is now underwater. They're calling it a brown sea or a brown ocean, as just tens of thousands of square miles are now underwater. They had been in a long drought. And, you know, times are thick, times are thin. That can naturally happen. But I noticed reports going back to August 8th of last year out of the Sydney Morning Herald report, rain making comes to Australia, and it goes on. A rain-making method developed by Tai King in Thailand is set to aid Queensland in battles with drought after an agreement between the state government and the Thai royal household. The technique largely relies on cloud seeding, generally undertaken using chemicals to promote the formation of water droplets within the cloud formations. There are several stages in the process, with sodium chloride used in the final stage to trigger rain. And I remember back in 1998, they had a big flood in Texas, and it killed more than 30 people in one night in South Texas. And there was a little blurb in the San Antonio Express News, just a small blurb about, oh, the Navy was doing weather modification drills in the area with their aircraft, but we don't know if there's any connection to that. A FOIA request is going to be filed. And I never saw what the end result of that was, but they act like, oh, the Chinese have developed this, or oh, the Germans have developed it, oh, the Russians have developed it, oh, the Russians for the parade are going to clear the snowy skies, or the Chinese are guaranteeing no rain for the Olympics. They have weather control systems with antennas, and now in Oman and other countries in the Middle East, they're creating rain. And then you talk about it, and our media says you're a kook. Our government developed all of this stuff. They were using rockets 150 plus years ago, in the 1850s. That's 160 years ago, to seed clouds and cause thunderstorms before the Wright brothers ever took off at Kitty Hawk. Okay? And I've had Ben Livingston on this radio show, the father of weather weapons, and he couldn't talk about it until it was declassified, what, in 2004. And when it was declassified, the history of weather weapons, at least up to 1970, he was the guy, after he was a World War II pilot, fighter pilot, what a character. He flew into hurricanes, but not just hurricanes, he flew into typhoons. And a typhoon, of course, is in the Pacific and can get up to 220, 230, 250 miles an hour, where hurricanes reportedly can't even get up to 200. They don't get spinning as fast here in this area. And he was the first guy to fly into storms. By the 60s, they'd certified total control of weather weapons, that they could create hurricanes, steer hurricanes, kill hurricanes. And the reason that Ben Livingston came on this show, and I saw him in the local newspaper talking about weather weapons, and he had all the documents that he could now show us, and I flew him to Austin to be interviewed. That interview's being posted on prisonplanet.tv next week. Exclusive stuff I've never before seen, not just the original interview. And he was mad because, I guess it was 2005, we just had Katrina. And he said, in '67, it was certified by the Navy, by the Air Force, by Stanford Research Institute, that we could create hurricanes, kill hurricanes, weaken hurricanes, whatever we wanted, with just 8 aircraft, and that was with old technology. So this needs to be looked into. Did the weather modification, nobody's talking about this a month into the floods in Australia, none of the Australian news is talking about it, that they started massive weather modification to end the drought in Australia, in the area that has seen these incredible floods. I think that that is very, very important. Okay, we are now joined for the rest of the hour and a little bit into the next hour, because we had some phone issues on our end and got him on a little bit late. Dr. Joel Wallach has been a guest on before, and we had so many people request that he get back on. I remember before I was even really awake to the New World Order fully, people were bringing up Dead Doctors Don't Lie. That's a syndicated radio program, syndicated by the great folks out in California, MZ, and out of some of our affiliates there in Santa Cruz. But Dr. Wallach lives in the Midwest, and he's a veterinarian. He's also a doctor of naturopathic medicine in ND. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize in 1991. And a lot of what he discovered as a doctor, but also as a vet, is a lot of the same things that Linus Pauling, the two-time Nobel Prize winner, talked about minerals and vitamin deficiencies, but the system knows that. And they don't want to, put things out that will then end a lot of these illnesses in the gravy train of treating the disease or the problem caused by the lack of minerals and the lack of vitamins. Now, I worked for a large animal vet off and on for 3 years. I worked also for a small animal vet in high school. And I remember routinely the large animal vet would do a diagnosis on cows, horses, whatever. They'd say, this is a vitamin deficiency, give them this, and usually it worked. And then later, there might be some of the more, mainline stuff used. So this is stuff known out there. The system just doesn't want you to be aware of it. And so we're really honored to have Dr. Wallach on with us. And I've done research. I've looked for people to partner with and to work with. And you're going to be hearing him on every month now. And I've tried to do research on who really has the information, who really has the answers, who is truly, legitimate and bona fide. And Dr. Wallach is the man. And we're also launching today InfoWarsTeam.com to promote the videos, the audio, all the great stuff of what Dr. Wallach is doing, and also sign up at InfoWarsTeam.com so that you can get huge discounts on the giant line of well-documented, real vitamin and mineral and trace element products that Dr. Wallach and his team have developed over the decades. It's just amazing. InfoWarsTeam.com, and you can join up, get big discounts. You can also get others to sign up. This is I've been approached a million times about being part of something like this and said no. This is a company that's doing something real, that is valuable, and in this imploding economy, it's also something that InfoWars listeners and others can get involved in and help people and also help themselves. It's a win-win-win-win-win situation. We're going to break here. We got him on late. I'm going to skip this break. I haven't done that in a few weeks. I'm going to skip this break with Dr. Joel Wallach. Research has resulted in the publication of more than 70 peer-reviewed and refereed journals, articles in the field of nutrition and pharmacological research, and he has made major contributions to 8 major authored texts and reference books on these subjects. Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine, and we appreciate him joining us. And again, check it all out. We're going to be adding more videos, more audio. There's already quite a bit there at InfoWarsTeam.com, teaming up with Dr. Wallach. Doctor, great to have you on with us.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. I really appreciate your hospitality and your comradeship, and we're both on the same train, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Tell us about your awakening and how important this is, that mineral and vitamin deficiencies is what's causing so many of the problems, and the system knows this, but they want you to be sick to make money off of you.
Well, you've hit the nail right on the head, Alex. Being a veterinarian, we learned, 100 years ago, actually longer than that, maybe 110 years ago, that we could prevent and cure as many as 900 different diseases using vitamins and minerals. If we were to use the same healthcare system for livestock that we use for people, your hamburger would cost you $285 a pound just to pay for the healthcare. So we learned a long time ago that we could keep the price of eggs and meat and vegetables and fruit and bread and stuff down to where the average person can afford to eat it simply by eliminating healthcare costs. There's not a single insurance company or insurance policy that prevents or cures disease. When you buy an insurance policy to pay your premiums, you're betting you're going to screw up somewhere along the line. You're going to have a big doctor or hospital bill, and so you're building up that insurance funds so that you can pay those bills. And it's still up to us individually to stay healthy. And so I've spent, since 1964, literally educating the public on this, because it's really a tragedy that we can prevent every birth defects in animals. Nobody's paying attention for it for humans. Every OBGYN should be put in jail because all birth defects are eliminatable. We don't need to be raising $80 million a year for muscular dystrophy, Jerry's kids, because we already figured out how to prevent and cure muscular dystrophy back in 1957 in livestock, because muscle is meat, and anything that affects the meat industry gets fixed quick. So we learned that. And so I've known this since actually 1962, that we were in big trouble with the healthcare system. Been yelling about it ever since then. And I'm so glad to have this association with you now, because you're the guy who can get the word out to the public.
Well, Dr. Wallach, it's just been invaluable what you've discovered. Let's go through some of the studies, the peer-reviewed journals that you've co-authored.
Okay. Well, a lot of people, Alex, say, well, okay, Wallach, but why were you the one chosen to do that big National Institutes of Health study 17,000 autopsies, 10 million chemistries. It's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. Why did they pick you, dumb Missouri farm boy? And that's because in 1962, I was the first guy to actually run into the first pollution mass die-off, pollution-caused mass die-off in livestock, and published it. And it was actually a bunch of feeder lambs. One guy had lost 500 lambs in one night because over time they had been chronically poisoned with nitrates and nitrites and fertilizer that had gotten into his well and affected their thyroid glands. When they had a sharp dip in the temperature, it got down to 19 degrees that night. He lost every one of his lambs, 500 lambs. All the surrounding people, all the other surrounding farmers didn't have the same problem. And I documented it very well with nitrate levels in the well water and in the feed and in the lamb's tissues. Got it published. And so I was kind of like a whistleblower back in 1962 as a result of that thing. And I was actually in Africa doing a big conservation project in the white rhino. I caught over 200 white rhino and sent them back to the United States. So if you ever go to a wild animal park or a zoo and you see a white rhino, it's either one that I caught or offsprings of the ones that I caught to save the species. Well, I was there doing that, and Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual of Omaha Wild Kingdom show, I think you're probably familiar with him, he actually got the grant to do this autopsy study of zoo animals, looking for a species of zoo animal that would essentially be the canary in the mine, ultra-sensitive to pollution and would warn us of some impending pollution doom. And I did over 17,500 autopsies, over 454 species of zoo animals and 3,000 human beings, 10 million chemistries, and all in this book that's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. And that's the basic reason I was nominated for the Nobel Prize for that work. And so I was the guy that did that study, and I was an abysmal failure at getting medical doctors interested in preventing and curing diseases in humans like we had in animals that did simple nutritional formulas. So I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician because they embrace nutrition and lifestyle change as opposed to medical doctors that just say, oh, eat fast food, you're going to get everything you need, right? And so I went back to school and became a naturopathic physician since 1978, 34 years now. I've been on the road giving 300 free lectures, the most popular of which was Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Next came Deadly Recipe. And these lectures are my way of trying to communicate the warning to the general public that they have to take responsibility. And recently, and I'm glad you brought up a lot of the terrible things that were brought to light in November of last year, just a couple of months ago, actually. One was they said that, and this was the Department of Health and Human Services and the Census Bureau got together. They found out that medical doctors kill 11,000, Alex, people who are there on Medicare patients, 15,000, they're yelling at me, 15,000 per month. American Medicare patients are killed in hospitals by medical doctors each month for 180,000 per year. That's just one little slice of the public. And then, of course, the audio cassette tape, now CD, Deadly Recipe. 1.5 million Americans are killed, injured by prescription mistakes. 1.5 million are killed and injured by prescription mistakes each year in America. And everybody wants a prescription. Nobody should want a prescription except for antibiotics if your kid has strep throat.
And they know this. And I mean, here's a microcosm example. In the trials of Prozac, the big granddaddy of the serotonin reuptake inhibitor psychotropics, doctor, as you know,
yes,
they knew it massively increased psychotic outbreaks, artificial mental illness, suicidal tendencies, suicide. And it took decades, up until just 5 years ago, to force the SSRIs makers to add the fact that it causes mania, psychopathic behavior, suicide. It took decades to make them put it on the label. They knew from day one. And what do they prescribe it for? Depression, when they know it actually causes depression. I mean, they're ruthless.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Prescriptions have been a nasty thing. I don't know if it's a conscious tool they use to keep the population down, or if they can't be that stupid. The doctors are very bright, but they are ignorant to things in some cases, and they're able to be sandwiches and money thrown at them by pharmacists.
Sure, I mean, I'm not even talking about the doctors. They're kind of given from on high, like Moses on the mountain. You know, fluoride's good for you. Yeah. Mercury's good for you. You know, all of this stuff is wonderful. You know, don't treat the cause. You know, treat the symptoms. But, I mean, I'm talking about the American Medical Association and Big Pharma that owns it.
Yes. Well, you're exactly right. And, of course, here's my example to just support what you're saying. We can actually, in most cases, get rid of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which right now, if you take in the pre-diabetic patients, you're looking at 90 million Americans, which is almost one-third of our population, has type 2 diabetes. We've known the cause, prevention, and cure of type 2 diabetes since 1957, 54 years. And I'm the only guy in the world who uses it. We get people routinely weaned off their medication in 2 or 3 days, sometimes a week. And they can have, even with injectable insulin, have blood sugars of 220, 240, and within 30 days they're down to blood sugars of 72, and they weaned off their medication and go back to normal life.
Well, I mean, what about this, doctor? How about how they tell diabetic patients to drink soft drinks with aspartame in it? I've had countless medical doctors on breaking down the fact that that stuff absolutely decimates people that have diabetes.
Well, yeah. Of course, the aspartame is made out of amino acids, actually. And, of course, it acts like sugar for a diabetic. It's just they should not be consuming anything that has pure amino acids or pure sugar or agave syrup or, you know, things that you would think of as being healthy. Whole grains and even whole grain breads are bad for diabetics. Juices are bad. Fruit's bad. And yet doctors say, you know, carry around an orange, and if your blood sugar goes too low, eat a piece of fruit. Well, if you just eat nuts, if you're allergic to peanuts, leave the peanuts out. You get mixed fancy nuts and eat mixed fancy nuts, the deluxe nuts, and you'll have a regulated blood sugar that doesn't go way up and doesn't go way down. It actually comes down to a deficiency of a couple of trace minerals, and if everybody takes them every day, and that's why I like what we call the Mighty 90. This is what we did in the animal industry, Alex, is that we give animals...
Well, Doc, I got to stop you. I was really excited about this interview today, and we tried to get a different phone line. I really want to be able to understand you and hear you, but the line has just gone to where we can't understand you. I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to give you our number, and I'm going to see if you can get on with this for the rest of the hour, because this is such powerful information. I really want people to be able to hear it and understand it. We're going to work on that with Dr. Wallach. We may just have to have him back up next week. Because if I can't understand him, I can imagine some of you are having a problem, so I apologize to stations out there. I can hear a lot of it, but some of it I'm having to really strain, and this information is so important. I am really into doing things that I know can really help people. If you filter your water with the proper filtration systems, it's hard to find them. It's hard to cut fluoride out. You will have incredible health benefits. That's scores of medical doctors, endocrinologists, brain surgeons. We've interviewed them all. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of studies. That's conservative. It's in the thousands, but I've looked at hundreds. That fluoride, sodium fluoride, hurts the thyroid, the whole body. And we've been beating this drum for years. The government's finally having to admit a bunch of this. Well, another big part of the equation is mineral deficiency and vitamin deficiency. And Dr. Wallach has got the documentation on this, and we can help a lot of people with this information. I've been really excited about interviewing Dr. Joel Wallach. Turns out he's on the road today, joining us via payphone. That explains the audio issues. Again, I have researched this myself. I've just looked at the mainline studies. They know that many of the fields are played out, that much of the agriculture land we're using has been destroyed because of the chemical fertilizers. The establishment knows and understands this, and they understand the mineral deficiencies we have. Dr. Wallach, give us your greatest hits. I mean, of all the research you've done, of what you understand, what are some of the biggest lies out there, and how do we reach out to people and warn them about what's happening?
Okay, the biggest lies, Alex, are when you have a disease like type 2 diabetes, and doctors will say, oh, it's genetic, we just have to be able to deal with it. And they convince people that treating the symptom, the main symptom of elevated blood sugar, is the way to manage the disease. You'll get maximum life. Well, that's not true. It's a very simple disease of what's called the insulin receptor site on the cell walls of all the trillions of cells in your body. It's kind of like turning off the breaker in the next room. You can plug in a $10 billion computer, and if the breaker is shut off in the other room, it ain't working. And the same thing is true with your insulin. Type 2 diabetics have 10 times the circulating insulin as a non-diabetic. It just doesn't work because the breakers are shut off in the insulin receptor sites in the cell walls. So what we figured out how to do was actually flip on those receptor sites, those insulin receptor sites.
Wow.
And usually, sometimes as quickly as 24 hours, blood sugar will go from 220, 300 down to 72. So you got to watch it. You have to take your blood sugar and adjust your insulin or your pills so you don't get yourself into insulin shock, because your blood sugar will drop dramatically on this program. And people will ask me, well, how long do I have to stay on this nutritional program? For the average-sized person, Alex, it costs about $3 a day, about half the price of a cup of exotic coffee, right? And they said, well, as long as you're on oxygen, you will need these nutrients. As long as you're on water, you will need these nutrients. If you're dead and you're not taking oxygen and water, you don't need these nutrients. The reason why we're in trouble is we're deficient in these nutrients. As you pointed out so eloquently, our fields are depleted because we're not repleting. We're not replenishing the minerals in our soil like we did in the old days. Our grandparents used to put minerals back in the soil in the form of wood ashes. They would cook with wood stoves and heat with fireplaces and wood stoves. They would take the wood ashes, which are not carbon. They may have carbon in them, but basically wood ashes are the minerals that the tree sucked up out of the ground, and they are left over when you burn the carbon in the wood for fuel. And they used to put these wood ashes, a.k.a. plant minerals, into the soil, their gardens, and then the sweet potatoes and the squash and the tomatoes and beans and peas and corn and cucumbers and melons would pull these minerals up. You'd eat the food and you get the minerals in that fashion. Well, we don't do that anymore, and farmers do not get paid by how many minerals are in your food. They get paid by tons and bushels per acre. And so really they're businessmen, and they could care less how many minerals are in the pasture for their livestock or how many minerals are in the hay or the feed they're giving their livestock. But as insurance, their insurance is different than ours. Instead of buying an insurance policy to pay the veterinarian when they screw up, their insurance policy is to give each individual animal by hand the minerals to assure they get them. It's very efficient economically. They're not just throwing those minerals in the ground and hope the plant takes them up. They're actually giving them one by one to the animals. And one of the ways to monitor how good this is production of meat per pound of feed, production of eggs, production of milk per pound of feed, and also longevity. For instance, when you and I were kids, Alex, an old dog was 8 years old. Today, an old dog is 25, and we didn't do that with wonder drugs. We didn't do that with things like organ transplants and stem cells and injected proteins. Basically what happened was we just put vitamins and minerals in our food. Well, the same thing is true for diabetes. What if, and this is true, and I'm just saying, what if the entire city of Austin were to listen to us today and say, okay, we're going to make Austin the first diabetes-free city, and it's doable within a couple of weeks. If everybody would take the 90 essential nutrients, the Alex pack, if you will, the Alex pack, the 90 essential nutrients, and then throw in what we call the Sweeties, which is the secret sauce for diabetes, and take their blood sugar like they're supposed to, and it'll come down, they'll wean off their medication, and Austin would be a diabetes-free city in a couple of weeks.
Now, Dr. Wallach, again, this is just one of the huge discoveries that you basically rediscovered, but going back, when I worked for Jess Adkins out in East Texas, large animal vet. When I worked for Billy Bob Dunn in Dallas, small animal vet. I mean, I didn't know about medical things. I was just listening to them. And so often they would talk about mineral and vitamin deficiencies. And here, give your dog these minerals, give them these vitamins. And then when I got into large animal husbandry for those 3 summers, I mean, it was all about that. And so much of it was, you need to put them on this feed or you need to give them this block. And I've got family that ranches. They all know that. So this isn't some big secret for veterinarians. And, of course, you're a veterinarian and also a naturopathic doctor. So, again, why aren't Americans who are having all these degenerative diseases and problems and things like diabetes, why aren't they being told this?
Well, you have to appreciate that a doctor is not required by law to cure you when there's a cure available. And this is the first thing I would do if I was ever appointed. When you get to be president, Alex, I want to be your first Surgeon General. I went to law that every doctor should be curing people where there's cures available. Otherwise, they go to jail for 25 years of life without possibility of parole. And since their average lifespan for doctors is 56, none of them will ever get out of jail. So I like that part. But at any rate, the reason why, for instance, it usually takes, depending on their body weight, $3 to $5 a day to get people to wean off their medication when they have diabetes and go back to a normal life. Can't legally use the cure word, so that's why I'm saying it the way I'm saying it. Then, by option, the alternative is if they treat people and teach them how to use insulin or pills to manage their blood sugar, which is a meaningless process, because elevated blood sugar is not the disease, it's a symptom of the disease, the doctor will make, the average family doctor who diagnoses it usually, will make $750,000. So you compare $300 with $750,000, which way are they going to go?
Now let's break that down. And of course the average doctor is just busy. They're just following what the American Medical Association says, and they subconsciously go along with it because it's profitable, and they've got all these bills and the rest of it. But, Doctor, how does it work, and again, we're talking to Dr. Joel Wallach, how does it work down at the cellular level? How does not having all the trace elements and minerals and things that you need, how does that just in the one area of diabetes that we're talking about, and there's so many other areas that we cover at InfoWarsTeam.com, one place to find all this information. We've got your free audio there. We're going to add a video of this show today there at InfoWarsTeam.com. Dr. Wallach, expanding on that, how does this interact at the cellular level, not having these minerals and nutrients, and what are those minerals and nutrients?
Okay, well, first of all, we need that basic 90 essential nutrients, the 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids. That's the basic Alex pack. This is the platform that everybody needs just to prevent disease. I mean, I'm going on 72 here. I've been taking this myself since I was 9 years old for 64 years. And I have my own issues that caused me to begin to take this when I was 9 years old, which I resolved in 3 days, and doctors couldn't fix it.
Yeah, you do look very young. You don't look, you look like you're 50.
Well, thank you. Yeah, most people think I'm 50, but I'm 20 years older than that chronologically, and biologically I'm 18. My bone density test and my vascular elasticity is that of an 18-year-old, so I'm very proud of that. But I've been taking the 90 essential nutrients since I was 9 years old, and the whole purpose of that, Alex, is to do what we do for our cars. For instance, we put oil in our cars before the engine burns up. If you have an expensive car like a Cadillac or a Bentley or a Mercedes or something, you change the oil every 1,000 miles or every month whether you drive it or not. And so to prevent the engine from burning up, get an extra 300,000 miles in distance. Well, the same thing is true for us. People get all in a panic once they get fibromyalgia and lupus and diabetes and arthritis. And, well, the doctor says I got to get a double knee replacement tomorrow. I'm already scheduled. Well, cancel the darn surgeries and give me 30 days, and we'll rebuild the cartilage in your knees. It's that simple. It's just you need that platform of the 90 essential nutrients. Now, once somebody has a full-blown disease like diabetes, you have to add some of the secret sauce back in, which is, as you point out, not secret. In the case of diabetes, it's 2 trace minerals called chromium and vanadium. Now, if you just take chromium and vanadium by themselves, you would drop your blood sugar, say, from 220 to maybe 200. Not very dramatic, and people say, well, I can do that just by not eating fruit. And so why should I take those things? And if I'm paying it out of my own pocket, insurance is not paying for it, the government's not paying for it, why should I do it? Well, that's because when the research is done in animals, the animals are getting their basic laboratory rat, guinea pig, rabbit, or monkey pellets with all the nutrients in it, and they just leave out the one. They would leave out chromium or vanadium or both chromium and vanadium, but all the other 90 essential nutrients they're going to have in there. Whereas the average American doesn't have many of those 90 essential nutrients. They might be banging along in 12 or 15 or be 65 short. And so that's a big, huge problem. So when you take the chromium and vanadium, nothing dramatic happens. So that's why they have to take the Alex pack as a basic nutrient platform.
So basically it's almost like an adjuvant. From talking to medical doctors and scientists and brain surgeons on this subject, fluoride is something that accelerates all of the other toxic things that are in you and almost gives it an acceleration effect or an amplifying effect. You're saying all the minerals and vitamins together, they have an amplifying effect because you need them all together. And to be quite frank, why Dr. Wallach is here and why I've approached him to have him on and to work with him, I was a health nut, and by health nut, running 6 miles almost every day, lifting weights, super good shape, 2% body fat when I was like 22. I got into radio, fighting the globalists, just quit working out, obsessed on it, eating unhealthy, and now for about 3 years, I've quit most of the unhealthy stuff, in fact, all of it. I've been running, I've been lifting weights, I've been eating less, but still, I haven't felt good. And now, in the last few months, I was doing research with Mike Adams and with Dr. Wallach and with so many other people looking at their material, studying the actual documents, and I really came up with the fact that I'm going to really announce this here today. I haven't even told Dr. Wallach this, and now I'm doing it publicly, so I got to put up or shut up. Last year I said I'd lose 50 pounds, only lost 25. I want to lose at least 40 pounds in this next year. That's my pledge. That's my resolution. And doing the research, it's not enough to go jogging in the morning or lift weights or even eat less. I have got, and I'm somebody who's never taken vitamins in my life, even when I played football. I've now gotten these products. I'm going to start them next week, and we're going to see what happens. But from all the research I've read, if I don't want my hair to go gray, which is all of a sudden starting to happen, I've got to get the nutrients. Even if I try to eat healthy, and my wife makes all sorts of vegetables and things, it's hard to get all of these things together, and that's what we need. And I would just think back to vets that I work for, obsessed with vitamins and minerals. And this is something the old-timers all knew. As Dr. Wallach said, he just discovered it in his own research and has now helped so many people. And it's so fundamental to get this message out to people. That's why we've created InfoWarsTeam.com. We're going to be adding banners up there. We've got free audio. We're going to be adding a bunch of video, a bunch of free material on this. But also, very inexpensively priced, big line of things for full spectrum. And what Dr. Wallach has developed over the last, 30, 40 years, I don't know how long he's been doing it, it's just so amazing. And I do believe in this, just like I believed in silver when it was $5 an ounce, and now it's almost 30. Just like I believed in gold when it was $260 an ounce, now it's right up at $1,400. I mean, I've done my research. Just like I bought storable foods 3 or 4 places and finally found a good place, and that's who my sponsor is. I've done my research, and now I found Dr. Wallach. I've known about him for 15 years, but I just went through my research because now I'm going to try to go on a health kick, and we're going to see right now what happens with the full line of longevity products, all discounted right there at InfoWarsTeam.com. And when you sign up there, you then get to get discounts on it. You can sign others up. This is a great way to create community organizations to educate people and in the free market, profit from helping people. Tell folks about what they can do by signing up or getting involved at InfoWarsTeam.com, Dr. Wallach.
Well, Alex, first of all, they're going to be able to get these products at wholesale. They'll save 30 to 40% from the marketplace. They're going to get products that are 1,000 times better from formulation standpoint and amounts. For instance, in some cases we have 3,000 times the minimum daily requirements of the vitamins. We have maybe 500 times the minimum daily requirement for minerals. Whereas when you get something off the shelf of a grocery store or pharmacy, these one-a-day multiple kind of things, you're looking at 20% of the minimum daily requirement. And so this is why people tend to be in a downward spiral. Also, for a one-time $10 fee, I believe it's a $10 fee, you get a business. And we will train you for nothing. We will train people. We do conference calls, webinars. We have regional and national meetings, local meetings. And they can not only help themselves with their health, the people they love, they can generate an income stream, have a tax-deductible business, which is a willable asset. And this is the part that I love, Alex. You can work for a company for 40 years, be the best employee they have, the go-to person to fill in when somebody's not there, or train the new people. You're the one they give the overtime to. When you retire or die, you cannot will or sell your job to your heirs. But your longevity business, you can do that. We're very, very excited about our association with you because you're going to get the word out. And in this economy, we're going to help people stay away from doctors by keeping them healthy before they get sick. We're going to help people canceled those double knee replacement surgeries and let us help them rebuild their knees. We're going to help them rebuild cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, bone. It's doable. We do it with professional athletes and military personnel all the time. We do it with people with firemen.
Because minerals and vitamins are what we're made up of.
That's exactly right. And
I mean, it's real simple. And so many of the vitamins I see on store shelves, doctor, as you know, it's synthetic versions. You guys actually have the raw, true vitamins and minerals. Explain to people briefly the difference.
Well, the difference is everything we have comes from plants and bacterial fermentation. Grinding up rocks doesn't count. For instance, if you have salt water source of minerals, which is a liquid mineral, we love liquids because they're easily absorbable, you can only get 985 milligrams of minerals from salt water, whether it's the Great Salt Lake or the oceans around the world. And in ours are from a certified organic plant source. So this plant compost, if you will, has been certified organic every year for 35 years. So you can actually see the
it's a biological source, so it's ready to be sucked up by your body. It's living.
It's living. It's already been pre-digested by the plants, and so you don't have to do that. And we're going to give you 19,000 milligrams per quart, 20 times what you get, and ours is cheaper than everybody else's.
Amazing. It's InfoWarsTeam.com. The site's loading slowly. A lot of folks on there, InfoWarsTeam.com. Over the years, I've been approached by a lot of folks to promote, these team organization things, and I just couldn't totally certify or believe in it. This I do believe in, InfoWarsTeam.com. Get involved right here on the ground floor today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll come back with the final segment with Dr. Wallach. Okay, we're going to have open phones next hour with Bob Chapman, and I'm going to go over a wide spectrum of news. Oil set to go up to $100 a barrel. We told you so 3 months ago. We're going to get Lindsey Williams back on next week, by the way. We're going to get into Mexican gunman fires across border towards U.S. highway workers. I see this kind of stuff every week, but the media is playing it down. We're also going to get into a report out of AFP. Freedom is in decline worldwide, U.S. report states. So our own government's admitting freedom is plunging worldwide, but talking about other countries. What about here? So that's all coming up as well. But open phones at 800-259-9231. Well, Dr. Wallach, I appreciate you coming on while you're out on the road. I look forward, when you're back in the office in the next few weeks, getting you on the broadcast. And absolutely, I hope people get involved in this, because I only promote and push what I believe in and what I think will help people. And folks can judge by our track record if I have good judgment. But people make their own judgment. I am going to start on the regimen of the basic products that you've developed that are mineral and vitamin based and all natural, because it's full spectrum, and I've done the research, and you're the only organization or group that I've found that fits in with the separate research I've done and what I learned working for veterinarians. And, of course, you are a veterinarian, but also a naturopathic ND. And so the website is InfoWarsTeam.com, and I'm flattered that you guys even created me my own website for this that hooks into your great website. So, again, they've got great discounts there, and it is $10 you sign up as a membership, and then you can also sell the products to others. And this is all about the products, just absolutely amazing. There's quite a few of them up there on the site at InfoWarsTeam.com. In the time we have left, Dr. Joel Wallach, other key tidbits, other things that mineral and vitamin and trace element deficiencies are triggering and causing. I know it's not just hair falling out and gray hair and bad fingernails and bad skin, and on the inside it's causing problems, isn't it?
Yes, you're exactly right. When you have gray hair, you're also getting a breakdown of the elastic fibers of your arteries in your blood vessels. You're going to get spider veins, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, ruptured aneurysms. Even Albert Einstein died at age 76 of a ruptured aortic aneurysm, which is a simple copper deficiency. And, of course, it also causes white hair, which he was legendary for. And then you're going to get, with the deficiencies of these trace minerals, you're going to get bone-to-bone arthritis, for which the medical system has joint replacement surgeries. Doctors are screaming for a epidemic of arthritis coming here because there's 80 million baby boomers coming along, and medical doctors have convinced them not to take vitamins and minerals, and as a result, they're all breaking down. And what I tell people, Alex, is to cancel your scheduled double knee replacement or double hip replacement or your low back surgery, give the Alex Pack and the extra glucogel, which is the secret sauce to supporting and promoting maintenance repair of cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae. Give us 2 months. And if you still think you need your surgery, you can always get the surgery, but you can't always get undead. And so there's always a tremendous risk with surgery from infection, amputations, paralysis.
I've had one surgery, and they almost killed me in Dallas when I was 16 for a broken leg. And I've got a hernia, and I won't go in for surgery because I'm afraid they'll kill me.
Yeah, you don't want to go in for surgery. They are the instrument of the bad guys. You don't want to go in there.
Believe me. Listen, they tested my blood. I'm going to hold you over for 5 more minutes, Dr. Wallach, if you can do it, and then we're going to get Bob Chapman on, because I want to tell this story. I'll start telling it now. My leg gets broken. The bone's almost sticking out of the meat. They tell me, you need a pin. I go in and have the surgery. After the surgery, they came in and they said, we tested your blood. You don't have any opiates in your body. You're not a heroin user. There's no drugs in your blood, but it took 9 times the regular amount to put you under. I kept waking up on the operating table. Then after that, they didn't put the IV in right. I woke up with blood all over me. It was a nightmare. I do not want to ever go in for surgery again. Dr. Joel Wallach is our guest. We've teamed up to bring you InfoWarsTeam.com. And he's got free audio files there. We're going to be adding video files there to the site over the weekend. InfoWarsTeam.com. I'm inviting all my listeners to get involved. What is it, $9.95 to sign up. Then you get upwards of 30 to 40% discounts on these wonderful vitamin and mineral and nutrient drinks, powders, you name it. It's just amazing products. I'm going on them all next week. I've done the research. I've chosen this product line. And what I'm into is what I promote to you. If I'm doing it, I tell you about it. It's real simple, okay? I do what I believe in. I walk the walk, ladies and gentlemen. I don't just talk the talk. And so you get huge discounts right there. You're able to buy the products, able to get others signed up and sell it to them. And this is how we defeat the globalist, is through the free market. Again, liberty is popular. The truth and health is popular. And I've done the analysis. The only thing I've got missing is that I am nutrient deficient. I haven't went a month ago and had my blood tested. Okay, now going back to Dr. Wallach, because we're almost out of time. I was telling that story, and you talk about dead doctors don't lie. That's the name of your radio program, and that's absolutely accurate. The guy that did my surgery was supposedly this great doctor in Dallas. He was a nice guy. He was a former NFL lineman, and he was a big guy. He was only, I think he was less than 50 years old, and he did the surgery. And then I called 4 weeks later and said, I need to get scheduled to have the pin taken out. I still got the pin, by the way. And they said, well, the doctor's had a huge heart attack. He's down at the coast. And he may be retired. And I called back a few months later and I said, is he able to remove the pin, or do I get a new doctor to do it? They said, we're sorry, the doctor has died. And he wasn't even, if I remember, wasn't even 50 yet. You talk about the statistics, and I've seen them, of medical doctors, dentists, you name it. I mean, these people, how are we listening to anything they say when they've got very low life expectancies?
You're exactly right, Alex, and this is why we came up with the Alex Pack, so that the average American can live to be well beyond 100 chronologically, yet be biologically 30. The average medical doctor, according to their own research, Alex, is 56. Why would we listen to a bunch of guys whose average lifespan is 56, how to live to be 100? And they die from cancer, diabetes, heart attacks, and stroke, all the things we want to prevent or cure. Why do we go to them? And it's madness. And so I really, really appreciate our alliance here. And your ability to communicate is just going to be enormous in saving America from the medical system by getting them on a healthy program. If you don't get sick, you don't need a doctor. You don't need a doctor if you get sick anyway. But
well, Dr. Wallach, that is my plan. That's why I reached out to you. So I did the research. I knew who you were. I'd interviewed before just as a guest, and I thought this was the guy to team up with, and I'm honored to be working with you because it's very, very simple. It's just like fluoride. They're now admitting that sodium fluoride is so toxic to the body. The government had to admit it last week. You know, that's
it's an
something.
Insecticide.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's an insecticide. They use sodium fluoride for an insecticide to kill ants, fire ants in Texas and Africa.
Exactly. So I go with what I know we can do, doctor. I say, stop drinking fluoride. Or if I know we don't have the minerals we need, I'm going to promote it, and I'm going to do it myself. I mean, it's just all part of making the right decisions, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a do-it-yourselfer concept. Americans are Americans because we're independent. We don't want the government doing anything for us except protecting us from enemies foreign and domestic. And in this case, The enemies domestic are the politicians and the doctors, the medical systems, and the pharmaceutical industry.
The special interest that, and again, that's why they're moving with Codex Alimentarius that is it says Codex Alimentarius in the Food Safety Act, written by Big Pharma and Big Agra. They want to shut down people like Dr. Joel Wallach being able to get us this information. And by the way, I'm going whole hog on this. I'm giving this stuff to my parents. I'm giving it to my family. I'm not even going to go out and try to sign them up. I'm going to give it to them first and see the results they get, because I know they're going to get great results, because I've talked to countless people over the years about Dr. Wallach. Dr. Wallach, oh my gosh, I was sick. It made me better. And then I did the research on the minerals. I remembered what the vets I worked for said. It makes total sense. Let's try it out together. InfoWarsTeam.com. Dr. Joel Wallach of Dead Doctors Don't Lie, syndicated by the great Michael Zwerling. We'll talk to you again very, very soon, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. God bless you, and thank you so much for the Alex Pack.
Absolutely. That's the #1 thing up there at InfoWarsTeam.com. What Dr. Wallach thinks you absolutely need, it's right there, InfoWarsTeam.com. Bob Chapman, who's always gracious to join us every Friday in the third hour. His website, of course, is an invaluable place for research, and that, of course, is internationalforecaster.com. And we're going to get into the economy a little bit with him, the situation with Mexico, and a few other issues in this segment. And then we're going to take your phone calls, because I know Bob always enjoys hearing the different topics that you raise, because he's a well-traveled, very intelligent guy, and he can certainly field any of your questions. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. I want to get into OPEC ministers saying oil is going to go to $100 a barrel. The British are freaking out, saying that will cause the EU to go down, and that will push this over the edge, because our economies are completely dependent, almost completely dependent, on oil and natural gas and distillates from it. If Lindsey Williams intel from the former head of Atlantic Richfield, who's now died, so we can release his name, and have, if that comes out to be absolutely true, and it goes to 150 a barrel to 200, that is going to be devastating to the economy. We're going to get Bob Chapman's take on that. But first, I wanted to get into the shooting with you, because we haven't talked a lot about that today, and we haven't talked to you since it happened, Bob Chapman. Bob, what do you think's going on here? Formerly with U.S. intelligence agency, formerly the biggest private silver and gold broker, had the biggest newsletter until you retired for a decade, came back. Now you have the International Forecaster. I'm just reintroducing Bob for some stations out there that are new. Bob, what is your scoop as kind of one of our learned omnibudsman of liberty on the situation out in Tucson?
Well, I think it's absolutely tragic that the shooter felt it necessary to shoot so many people. If he had a disagreement with his fellow religious person, who is Miss Gibbons, then that's one thing. And, of course, it's not meaningful that you should shoot anybody, but it should have been left at that. But it wasn't. And I think, from my experience, that spraying of bullets all over the place was a cover. I think that the perpetrator knew he was going to get caught. And I think that the shootings of many people was a cover. Yes, everybody will think that Miss Gibbon was the target, and maybe she was. But how about the judge?
Who we know is probably the most conservative federal judge, and had continually voted pro-Second Amendment, and had helped shoot down the Brady Act with Sheriff Richard Mack.
Well, also, we're getting reports that he, just days before, had made decisions regarding the administration requesting that they be allowed to go after the assets of known drug dealers of one kind or another.
And by known, no judge, no jury. I did look up the ruling. They were saying just let us grab anybody's money we want with no proof, and Judge Roll said no, so he died.
Well, I think, and I heard from the very beginning, he was a target. And they were going to teach him. And that's the way these people operate. And I understand also that they were trying to skirt going, the administration was trying to skirt going through Congress on the issue of a trade, what I call confiscation, of 401ks and IRAs, of which there's $6 trillion in them, so that they could access them and trade off government-guaranteed annuities. And I understand he shot that down as well. And if that's the case, it gives plenty of reason to think that perhaps that was the real reason he was there. I understand he had debated and spoken with Miss Gibbon before, who went to the same synagogue that he did, which makes this whole thing even worse. I mean, it's just like if you went to the same church and you talk to somebody all the time and then you walk over and shoot him in the head.
Yeah, I know. If you add all this together, he wasn't supposed to be there. They claim he was shopping. But in the indictment and the charges against the Grim Reaper killer, who admittedly now was on hallucinogens not almost every day, multiple times a day, out of his gourd, thought he was under mind control, was on drugs that caused disassociation or amnesia. Classic mind control. Sirhan, even mainstream news admitted that was mind control. The L.A. County medical examiner said that Sirhan did not shoot him. We know the name of the CIA agent who did shoot RFK behind the head. So we know this history. The whole thing really does stink to high heaven. And this happens right as the new Republican Congress is coming in, the way the media seizes on it within hours, saying it's conservatives, the way the police and sheriffs protected this guy, and he was death-threatening everybody for months, running around like a complete lunatic. They've tried to seal all of that. I mean, just every alarm bell, Bob Chapman, goes off on this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the Pima County police chief, or whatever he's called, for the comments he made out of his hand, he should be dismissed. Well, and he's my age, he should retire anyway.
Well, Bob, I don't know if you've seen all this, but I've had CNN online, I've had MSNBC, I've had Democracy Now!, a bunch of other programs basically blame myself and Ron Paul. They've shifted from Sarah Palin and Limbaugh, because it's admitted the guy's a big liberal, and now now they're going after their main target, the true outsiders, the true people that want a republic. What's your take on Rachel Maddow implying that it's un-American, what I've said and what Ron Paul has said, and she plays clips of it, that the Second Amendment isn't just there for duck hunting or to stop criminals, it's there to stop a Hitlerian or Stalinistic type regime coming to power.
And that's exactly right. And you would expect that kind of response for her. I'm just disappointed they didn't name me.
Here is the Declaration of Independence. This is what this country was founded on. This is how America started. And they talk about the tyranny and that the government is building a tyranny by design, premeditated tyranny. That's what we're fighting. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, what are we saying? It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So Rachel Maddow hates what America is. She is fundamentally not an American, and she is an enemy of the Republic. I mean, it's that simple, and I will fight her in the info war. She will imply we're violent and evil. We have the most violent, illegitimate corporate group of crooks that have hijacked our country. Is a hijacker on a 747 the legitimate pilot? No. This corrupt offshore banking cartel are hijackers. They've hijacked our country. They've killed millions of people worldwide, funding Pol Pot, 1 million plus Iraqis, hundreds of thousands of Afghans, our own dead troops. You are the people that love the gun. You're the ones massing a giant government military against us. You're the one that'll send the IRS out to kill somebody they try to stay in their house or blow up their church in Waco. You're the ones that are violent. And we need our guns to protect ourselves from you little Hitlers. Bob Chapman.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. And they, from time to time, create the Hitlers. And Adolf Hitler was a good example. He was funded by the large banks and brokerage houses in New York and London, although I don't think he knew where a lot of the money was coming from, do I think he cared.
It was a wind-up toy.
What's that?
Stay there. Explain wind-up toys when we come back, then phone calls, then we're getting into the economy and so much more. But they're now sending the FBI to conservative bloggers' houses to intimidate them for writing blogs that don't talk about any violence. I mean, this is the commissars, the political police. He was getting into how the globalists, and I mean, this came out in congressional hearings, financed the communists and the Nazis. And that's the British model. British imperial model. They've got to create the enemy so that they can then build up giant armaments industries that are used to then bankrupt their domestic slaves. That's how power is consolidated. Bob Chapman continuing.
And so at Versailles, the bankers pre-wrote the treaty, and they pre-wrote the conditions. And when Germany capitulated, they were able to do exactly what they wanted. And what Versailles was all about was the planning and preparation for World War II. That's why I mentioned the funding of Adolf Hitler, a good part of which came from not German hands. And, of course, the main contributors in Germany were the two major steel companies, Thyssen and Krupp. And they were supposed to be disbanded in 1948, and of course that never happened. And so all of these enemies that were created by these people and their organizations. And they set up this dichotomous situation in Europe after the fall of the Weimar Republic in the early to mid-1920s. And in that effort, they split the people in Europe generally, but specifically in Germany, which had all bad problems before anybody else did, and before the Great Depression came along. And you were either a Bolshevik or you were a National Socialist. And that's how they got the war going. And they finance both sides, and they do it over and over and over again. And that's why it's not difficult for me to figure out what they're going to do next in the world economic arena today.
Because they've got a formula.
That's right, exactly, they do.
It's a disgusting...
And they have to deviate from it once in a while because the Alex Jones Show and other talk radio and the Internet is forcing them to do that. And every time that we broadcast across the world, we're influencing people by telling them the truth very simply.
Well, Bob, that's what's happening. That's what creeps me out. We've got big breaking news, and I've gotten so conditioned to accept that I'm living in a tyranny and to deal with it psychologically so I can live my life that I'm becoming too comfortable with it. I mean, but things are moving so quickly now. But even though I know it's evil, I'm almost just going, well, that's what's happening. Now they've got telescreens going up in shopping malls and Walmart telling you computers aren't safe. Homeland Security's taking the web over for your safety. Watch everyone. Don't trust each other. They're sending FBI to conservative bloggers' houses who've asked polite questions of Congress people at events, like, why did you give a political contribution to this guy if you're conservative? They are now issuing Homeland Security reports saying if your neighbor talks about politics, go ahead and call Homeland Security on them. They're saying if you buy guns and ammo, that's a sign of terrorism. I mean, this is all just flooding out where they're just admitting, yes, Homeland Security's for you. And the rollout is this guy who fits the classic MO, has every earmark of a mind control assassin. And then it's super creepy. From MSNBC to Democracy Now! To talk radio, I've even got Limbaugh basically blaming me for films I'm in. I mean, I've got the left and right blaming me. It's all my fault, Bob.
Well, it's to be expected because you're at the spear point, and you are driving them crazy. And they want to find a way to shut you up. And it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse.
So what, are they just going to keep demonizing me and then just arrest me for some trumped-up baloney? Or?
Of course they will.
Yeah.
And we discussed this a dozen years ago. And it's not going to go away. And I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm old enough to be a dad. And I decided that if I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing, I'm going to get out of harm's way. And at least make it difficult for them to try to find me. And so that was my choice as an elderly person. But I haven't let up one bit, and you know that. And so we got to keep on doing what we're doing because what we're doing is right, and it's going to work. And that's why people all over the world are writing you emails. Thank you very much. Please keep it up. I know you're right. And so that's enough for us of thanks to keep right on going, doing what we're doing.
Well, I mean, look, I've said this 1,000 times. We're going to come back and go to calls. I'll say it again. If this was just some boss hog corruption, I would be on the air criticizing it because I would know it was a danger, it can grow out of control. But this is real organized evil. I mean, they really want the nastiest, meanest police state. They're openly announcing they will take everybody's pension funds. They're openly announcing they want to throw basically everybody in prison. I mean, this is really a nasty group of tyrants. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.